Welcome back to the Lavender Water Podcast. This is your host, Matthew Williams, and today I am being joined by a special guest. Her name is Danielle Meadows Stinnett.
Mm-hmm.
How you doing today?
Hello. I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm dandy.
Oh, that's good to know. Hopefully the weather's good where you are, because it's pretty beautiful out here in Kentucky.
It just got back to beautiful. Just like literally like less than 48 hours ago, it was brutal and scorching. At the time that this episode is going to come out, it's probably going to be fall, so it's not going to make sense. But this was recorded in summertime or the beginning of summertime, and Georgia was hitting 100-degree indexes, 105-degree indexes.
Same. Yeah, it's like 108, 109 last week in the index. And so we were appreciating the beauty of the outdoors from the air-conditioned house. Yes.
So today you wanted to address mental health and mental health professionals and avenues to seek help.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a lot of different stories that I can kind of bring up and talk about, but just from a business perspective, having that type of understanding of self-improvement, things that we can work on ourselves. There's a couple different avenues we use at Octane, which is my 12-year-old digital marketing and branding firm based in the heart of the Bluegrass. It's women-led and owned and women-led across 5 countries. And so that's pretty cool that I'm in a place where I can help instill more self-improvement, specifically for women in the fields of tech and in the fields of design.
Nice. A few guests, we've discussed like issues of mental health, whether dealing with a condition or people not knowing where to start, to seek help and get what they need.
Absolutely. So when we talk about, mental health, it scopes such a range now, right? I mean, everything we've seen specifically in the news in our country around mental health in children, around mental health in teenagers, and then also mental health with adults. Everyone kind of addresses some of these avenues a little bit differently, but overall, mental health is something that's becoming more and more of a common stigma here in America, and we have to start addressing it now versus waiting until something bigger develops due to the lack of addressing mental health. So for us here in our business culture around Octane, we talk a lot about, mental health and how we can help build each other up and encourage and support each other. So maybe that's just a one-on-one talk, a virtual coffee, if you will, with some of my colleagues. Maybe that's, suggesting avenues. We talk a lot about mental health specifically on one of our on our podcast specifically, More Than Graphics podcast, which focuses on women in the creative and tech industries. And so mental health is a huge component to that conversation as well. So not only talking about it and kind of going through some basic steps of getting the help that we need, whether that's online resources, whether that's talking to a professional one-on-one for mental health, or even just being out in the world, right? Just stepping outside, because sometimes that can be a hurdle all by itself. Just being amongst people and community. So there's a lot of different ways that we have embellished on this idea of what mental health can look like, as far as getting the resources and help that people need.
Extravagant.
Oh, yeah. I mean, absolutely. I mean, considering everything that's happening right now, like right now in the past 2 months, especially for people of color, let me go there as well. As a woman of color, this is extremely differential for me to even want to kind of embrace some of the public eye sometimes. And I'm sure there's plenty of other people of color that can relate to even wanting to go outside. But then there's this other element that, that's required of us in the psychology and the physiology of our bodies. Having community is important, whether we seek that online or in person. But it's a huge mental check for us to have that. So I encourage that wherever we can find it and get it. But I definitely can relate to the idea of feeling those type of feelings, because it exists. And so we just have to figure out ways to, unfortunately, work with it and around it.
Yeah, that's that's the biggest step is acknowledging it and acting on it, and then it's an everyday process. You know what I'm saying? And
Mm-hmm.
then you know you can tame the beast.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm glad that you refer to it that way because I definitely feel like that is how a lot of us see it. But it can be tamed, and it can be something that we can work through together, kind of like a Beauty and the Beast kind of feel. There is a little bit of beauty that comes from this type of unfortunate tragedy, which is the ability to come together, that unification, that understanding of one another, the growing of compassion, the growing of humanity in a lot of areas. So I definitely encourage people who are in those places of seeking those type of things. It's like riding a bike. It really is just putting your feet on the pedals and start pushing. It's as simple as taking those first steps, put one foot in front of the other.
So tell me about the early days of becoming an entrepreneur and the journey, to maintaining a brand for over a decade and, spreading awareness and, how did you, like, I really got a lot of questions, like, well, just tell me the origin, the backstory.
Sure. So Octane started from very humble beginnings. I started this business as a pregnant mother with a toddler in a one-bedroom, 500 square foot space. I was definitely in the heat of the moment, just focusing on paying the bills, making sure I'm fed, my kids are fed, the welfare of my family was taken care of at the time. So those immediate needs were my main goals, but over time, it kind of flourished more into how can I help solve another person's problems? So sure, we all have our own problems, but how can I help solve another person's problems in regards to, design? And eventually I started becoming more of a go-to person for multiple different types of businesses. And that's kind of how I grew my street cred, if you will, as that go-to person who knew how to solve these type of problems. And over time, I decided to not only be that person, but also create a community for other people behind me. So I'm a third generation entrepreneur. So that's a really big deal for people who are living here in America. We, as a person of color, that's a big deal, especially. So I've watched my grandparents, and even knowing my great grandparents selling things out of the backs of people's homes. They were very, very, very well versed in sustaining what society told us to do, but they were also well versed in kind of creating our own destinies and understood the balance between the two, or the imbalance, between the two. And so that kind of gave me a window of opportunity to see life from a different perspective outside of the 9 to 5 that the world wanted us to kind of fit in, if you will. So that's really kind of a scope and range of view perspective for me walking into entrepreneurship. I knew it could be done because I've seen that representation in and throughout my family.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm an entrepreneur as well, or I'm trying to be. I'm trying to like build like a giant like corporation media enterprise thing.
Okay.
Disneyland. it's
I'm
like
for it.
it's like so huge. It's like so grandiose. I don't know how I could do it in a lifetime, but it's all starting with my clothing business because that's what I actually put on the books. So like this kind of like goes back to like a thing where like I was like rapping back in the day, and our group, it was called Third World Records, and my friend was like upset that like I acknowledged the group as a fictitious brand because it was like we weren't getting paid to do it. No one knew who we were. But like he just got really upset about that, and then it's like when I actually went into business and then seen that like in this legal writing they call something that's not on the book a fictitious brand. You can't be a fictitious brand. You have to have the employee identification number. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're a fictitious brand. So
we refer to this as a case study. That's what we call it over here. Definitely, I relate to that. We've definitely gone through series of case studies of fictitious brands, if you will. But I like the fact that you call it that, though. It's really kind of interesting. I'm gonna have to hold on to that. I may quote you later.
For sure, but it's like, so yeah, with the clothing brand, it's called Once Nude, as in like we used to be naked, we used to not wear clothes at all. So now we're wearing clothes, and this is a clothing brand saying that we didn't wear clothes. So it expanded from like clothing to lifestyle items like yoga mats or comforters, curtains, rugs, stuff like so. Expanding outside of clothes to having it in your lifestyle, to then like I minted like a cryptocurrency. I got like this idea for a record label. It's called La Perla Records. It's the little name I gave to my car when I had it. It was white, so it was like a pearl.
That's
and then
cool.
I had to junk the car, so it was like because I used to record songs in that car, so it was like, okay, it's like La Perla Records, like, you know. So that's like a little thing, but it's like it's not on the books yet. You know what I'm saying? Like all these little offshoot ideas is like, okay, this is what's like, you know, stemming from it, and then, you know, it keeps expanding. So it's like, you know, down the line when I'm like really in a position to go into business and make it profitable and make it work, then it's like I have these skeletons of ideas in the closet, I guess.
I like that, though. Hopefully, they don't come back to haunt you per se, but I like the idea of having. It's so fruitful to have multiple ideas, multiple thought processes, and the more that you are in that process of creating, the more options that you have. I kind of think of it, especially in this day and age, especially for businesses of color that are trying to sustain themselves. One of the things that I kind of fall back on in air is, you know, the one trick pony, right? I got to do this one thing. It's the only one thing I need to do to sustain myself. And, you know, we're learning from people like Issa Rae. We're learning from people like Pharrell, right, that create multiple streams of incomes, multiple ideas, and capitalize on them. So it may be flow in the same umbrella, but they're, you know, individual in their own right. So I encourage that. I think it's a great idea.
It's really funny you say Pharrell, because like I really love the Neptunes. Like anybody that knows me, like any song that says produced by Neptunes, I love the song.
I'm obsessed. I was obsessed with Neptunes back in the day when they were actually quote unquote cool. And then, you know, as they may continue to make their continual comeback, huge fan of Pharrell, because he's amazing. He's definitely an iconic entrepreneur man.
Sorry, I'm not good at keeping the flow going sometimes. It's like I'm not like a super inquisitive person. Like sometimes I really rely on people to like talk about themselves for hours, like on end.
Oh, you're one of those. Okay.
Because it's kind of like my thing in the streets. Like if you saw me in the streets, you would probably tell me your life story for no reason, as most people do. But it's like when it's kind of like organized, it's like, okay, now I have to have like a set, and I don't usually write anything down. I usually let it flow.
Sure. I totally get it. Organic conversation is great.
So where are you right now with business, and where do you see it going?
A couple different places. Well, currently we are barely right under a staff of 10, all women, and I love the fact that I get to work with them every day. So I do dream upon wish upon a star that I'll bring on maybe some male interns and kind of, go that direction as well. But for now, we're just taking on one. Well, I shouldn't say one client at a time. That's not true. We just launched like maybe 3 or 4 websites at a time just very recently at once, all at once. 3 different multiple different brands at one time. And when we say like launch, I don't mean just like one single product. It's multiple products per client at the same time. So it's one of those things where, sorry?
I'll say congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. This is something that we are in the process of really kind of solidifying the way that we want to market to our clients, the way that we want to speak to our clients, the way we want to build the community on our own terms. So we're coming from a little bit more of a gamified theme, if you will. Our business is very much the geeky, strong, wise girl. We thrive on our blurredom here, especially as a business of color. So it's really kind of, interesting. We have a very niche audience. And so we're looking for, the women who are working the 9 to 5 and they're gaming on the Xbox or the PlayStation, at night. We're really speaking to the women who are not afraid to, wear their Stranger Things T-shirt and their Super Mario Brothers shoes while working at their job. Maybe we're really speaking to those BIPOC and women-owned businesses, which is 60% of our clientele. That are, looking to create a new business for themselves or maybe start out in their own entrepreneur journey. So those are the type of people that we are specifically reaching out to, but I think it's really cool that we get to do it on our terms. It's not a corporate, everyone has to dress in a color shirt. It's very casual. I think the way that we look at entrepreneurship now is so much more, can I just say it's cooler now? Like it's, when we say you work a 9 to 5 now, we're just like, oh, you work a 9 to 5? Like nowadays it's kind of, it's so much different the way that we see people make money. And so I really thrive in that atmosphere of having less regulation per se, a little bit more personal freedom to express ourselves through the services and products that we offer at Octane.
Okay. Yeah, when you were talking about it, it's like, it doesn't sound like you got to put on the face and the voice and, there's no random meetings and, there's no Johnson, I need that file on my desk by Monday.
Yeah, I know it comes off that way, but I mean, there's so much freedom, in having that, building that gravitas, again, for early startups, those first 3 years are crucial. Knowing who you are, knowing exactly what to say, knowing where to put it so that other people can find you and invest in you. Those first several years are hard, and more than 50%, right, of those businesses that start don't finish the race, right? They drop out, they flake out, they can't go on any further, either due to development, branding, cash flow, whatever those options may be. We are the ones that are trying to find ways to sustain a lot of those startup businesses. So our goal is to look at people who are either just starting or about to start a business. We really want to help them develop their own sense of style, their own brand, their own style, if you will, and apply that so that people can invest in them too.
That's magnificent. I love that. Because, what I've been learning through the journey is like the first 5 years, like, really crucial time to say, like, it takes like at least like 5 years to build a brand first, and a lot of people crash out. Before I got my LLC in 2020, started the Shopify in 2019, and I get these notifications weekly, and they'll tell me like I'm in the top 20% of stores that started the same week as me when it comes to traffic, and it's like, I don't think that I'm getting a magnificent amount of traffic. I just think those other ones just stopped doing it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But,
It's survival of the fittest. You're absolutely right. It is definitely survival of the fittest. So I think it's always really interesting how this goes down, for a lot of the new businesses that are just getting started. When they walk into that space, a lot of them, many of them have the idea, but they don't have the execution. And that's where businesses have to rely on the ones that are accredited, the ones that have skin in the game, the ones that have a very thought and planned out end game from beginning to end. And I feel like Octane is a strong contender for that. We've seen the beginning, the middle, and the end. We can get you all the way through the process. We tell a lot of our kind of, personal life stories and wisdom that we share with businesses and with friends back and forth. We share that life is more like Tetris and less like Mario. So if you're a gamer, you already kind of know where I'm going with that. But for those who don't know, when we say Mario, we're talking about, literally Mario, Super Mario Brothers. We're literally talking about the opposition of the game is to the tact of the game is to literally go through a level as quick as you can to get to the other side, right? You may hit a couple of special moves. You may hit a couple of bonus things within that realm, but the whole point is to zip line, right? Get through as quick as you can, get to the castle. And in Tetris, it's a lot different. You have to actually be aware of time and space and measurement. It's about moving and shaping your blocks as they come down to make a solid foundation before you run out of space, right? So the whole point of me saying that life is like Tetris and less like Mario is it's not about zipping through the moments. It's understanding how to wield the blocks, mold them, and shape them in a place that carries a strong foundation for you to grow.
Bars.
I love it.
It's funny you say Tetris because I've felt this way since I started working in the kitchen. Like I stopped in 2021, but I started in 2014, and it's like it didn't hit me until like 2018 when I was playing Centipede. I think it was like Centipede or yeah, I think it was Centipede, the one where it's like you shoot it, but it's like the pieces move individually when you shoot them and stuff. And then, yeah, so it was like
and
the
Space
way
Invaders.
they were coming down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Space Invaders. Yes, that's the one. So it's like the way they were coming down and like the format of the game, it kind of reminded me of Tetris. And it's like I had only learned how to play Tetris in like 2009. Like I was already a man. Like I had the game, but I never understood the game, so I never liked the game. So then when they taught me the game, it was like, oh, this is actually kind of dope. So it's like, yeah, it's like instead of like rushing through, it's like, nah, we chilling right now. This is a battle of patience, technique, skills. You know what I'm saying? Like anyone can run them and gun them and shoot them, and you know what I'm saying, but this is like a genius game. Like but with the kitchen, it's like there is no like you can't like expedite the process. You just have to keep taking it. And
that's
like,
right. Yeah, oh my gosh, yes, that's genius. I love that too.
Yeah. So like when I try to like tell people like it's like Tetris, they couldn't understand me. I don't, just they had to feel it and they didn't feel it.
I feel you definitely. I mean, for those who game, this is like this is kind of like the headshot. I tell people all the time, like, this is how we do it. It's all about strategy. As much as we like to think that it's, it can be fun and games, don't get me wrong, but there's a time for play and there's a time for strategy. And we believe the strategy is a form of play. And so that's what we do a lot here at Octane is we just we listen, we intake, we help solve problems. And at the end of the day, we want you to win. So we want to give you a strong end game to follow through on.
Yeah, I'm gonna like put your link and stuff in the description so that they can find you and network.
That would be awesome. I would love that. I think it's a really important. We just share a lot of things right now. As you mentioned, this episode is probably coming out in the fall, so we'll be doing a lot of different things around that time. Usually, we have a really cool Canva critique workshop that happens in the fall. It's actually it'll be seeing the holiday version because we like to plan ahead. As creatives, like to stay at least one season ahead. So this will be probably closer to like, fall time is Halloween and Christmas and all the holidays that come after in the winter, things along those lines. So what we do in those critiques is we literally tell people, show up at this time, share your Canva link for people who don't use Canva. I'm perfectly fine with using, Adobe link or anything along those lines, but we like to focus on Canva because Canva's our friend. We're good affiliates with them. And I think it's really cool that they share a link to their design. We share it with the class, the people who are in that particular virtual room, and I take it apart and put it back together again. And by the end of the session, they leave with an already pre-designed piece that they were going to use on their socials or however they were intending to use it.
Okay.
So it's kind of helping a little bit of the DIY marketers. A lot of the small businesses can't completely afford a high-end graphic design agency at all times, or can't be a retainer client, but they can be, you know, a one-off client, if you will. So this is us kind of giving back to our community. Instead of them hiring us, we literally kind of bring them in and say, this is how we would do it. If you want to follow those instructions, and you can help yourself by doing a little bit of your own DIY marketing for their small business.
Well, that's good because, and I feel that because it was like a few years ago when I was like really focused on making the music, and kind of like how you were saying earlier about how you feel like you get boxed into one thing, that's all you can do. So it's like for a long time I felt like I had to be the musician, and I was like, man, I got to do other things. But when I was in musician mode, I was on Facebook and I saw this DJ in the city in Cincinnati at the time, and she's like in her studio room off the clock, and she's live on Facebook, and she's having people like pay her through Cash App to play their song on her Facebook Live. That's like, you know, people are looking at it, but like it's not like anyone important is really someone that could like, I like that sound, I'm gonna contact him and sign him a record label deal. Like, you know, it's just like people like me looking at people paid to get on this thing. So like, it kind of like made me mad. Like it's like I can't get mad at the hustle, but it's like y'all out here getting hustled. You know what I'm saying? No one's gonna check you out. Like you're not gonna get famous. So it's like it gave me this idea to like do like an internet radio station and like play people's music in the city. But it's like, you know, no one really wanted to, you know, do the right avenues to like protect their music, and it made me see that like a lot of people didn't understand the music business. So it's like, okay, if I can't like network with people that don't understand the business they're trying to get into, and it's like for years people were telling me it's like it's actually business. You gotta understand the business, and I was like, well, I ain't trying to understand the business. I'm just trying to rap, man. So right. When I explored the world of the business, it's like, man, we doing everything wrong. We're not.
There's no strategy in this, right.
No strategy, no point. There's no destination. It's like you're playing Tetris, but like it's not even keeping score. It's just, I don't even know.
I think there's a lot of people out there who can do a hustle, like, and I feel like this is where a lot of creatives are. They're kind of split. They're kind of a little bit divided right now between the hustle culture and the business culture, right? The hustle culture is telling you to go, like drop your price so you can get as much quantity as you can. Whereas in the business culture, it's about less quantity and more quality. So if you're doing in the business hustle, we're talking about more so in the business mode. We're talking more so about taking less clients but doing high-end work. And I think that is for a lot of people, especially businesses of color, we kind of fall into the hustle culture more so than the business part. And maybe some of that comes with just maturity as you grow as a business. I definitely remember in the early days, you know, I was hungry and I definitely wanted to take, you know, logos for $75. You know, I was definitely in that place because I just wanted to get in, right?
I like how you laugh at your past self. Like,
it's laughable now because I'm just like, I would never do that ever in my life. But nowadays, I mean, that's so common. We see that culture. We see that across Etsy. We see that across other places that are selling, you know, really quick logos and graphics. Digital and online methods, right? Shopify has plenty of options where you could just purchase something very quickly and that be your template or your format. And a lot of people rely on that. But I think the unique and the difference between someone who's been in the game for a long time versus someone who's very new to the game is understanding how to work with assets and make them custom for your people versus working with an asset and that being the asset.
Right.
And so that is something that I feel like, you know, again, we've had a lot of time to grow in that direction. So we create a lot of custom things like constant calendars for a lot of our clients. They're 30-day build outs of custom custom graphics for their social media needs. But with those graphics come custom hashtags that are researched for you, depending on your genre, your industry, as well as custom captions so that you don't have to write them at all. They're already pre-done for you. So we deliver the goods from head to toe, not just simple graphics that you can scrap off the internet and repurpose in a fancy way.
Good. I love that because my biggest thing is this is like a secret thing that I do on social media. Like not a lot of people know it. I guess whoever listens to it is going to know it now. But like say like something viral happened, like someone posted a video of like somebody fighting or something. I just read the comments and then I see people advertise their stores and stuff. So I always click on the stores like, let me see what they're doing. And it's like automatically I can tell by the format it's Wix, Shopify, you know what I'm saying? Which I'm not downing the platforms, you know, there's nothing wrong with using those. But it's like when people don't add any flair or personality or, you know, something worth like, wow, I like this website, you know what I'm saying? It's like, man, and then you leave the power that Shopify at the bottom or a Wix website or Cartel or whoever, you know what I'm saying? It's like, man, you really don't care. You think when I look at this, I'm going to buy it, but it's like especially with the fashion business, I've read a lot of ebooks and stuff about like tips to start out in like brand and all that and laying out the website. And it told me like study like the brands that you like, you know what I'm saying? Look at their website. So I was like, I went straight to the Polo website and I seen like interactive like panels and stuff and I'm like, whoa. I got it. So, you know, I think a lot of people just kind of jump into it like, if I put myself in the way of making the money, I'm going to make the money. But it's like, no. Like, people got to like what they see. They got to want it. You got to create that want. Like, it's got to be just as desirable as that 75-cent outfit off of Shein. Like, you know? Like,
yep. I completely relate to that. And I think that's so important that you say that because people want the want aspect, right? It varies across different industries, across different types of products and services. But when you really get down to it, it's literally providing some sort of desire that a person truly wants. And so the psychology behind that is if you place it right, say it right, color it right, people are going to pay attention to that trend. And that's something, too, that a lot of people kind of play around with too much, I feel like. Even though it may be trending, is it sustainable? Is it long-term? At what point are you gonna have to pivot? Are you going to have to pivot 5 times a year before you actually get into a rhythm of understanding and knowing your customer base to know what works and what doesn't work? Yes, could be, or no. But the only way you're going to find out is by trying, right? So a lot of times this is why I love my job because we get to play around a lot. We get to figure out what works before it gets in our clients' hands. We get to figure out what some of the troubleshoot areas are before we present it to people and say this is a valuable option. We never offer anything that we haven't tried ourselves. And I think that's really important for us to lead from a place of learning and lead from a place of failure. I think it's really important that we always encourage failure is important because we know then how it works and we know then what can work and what can't work. A lot of businesses struggle with failure, or individuals, specifically entrepreneurs, we struggle with failure sometimes because we feel like that's a dead-end street, right? We didn't get anything out of that. We feel like we wasted maybe some energy. But really deep down, we look at failure as an opportunity to try again. We really see failure as an opportunity for us to try something new or try something different. So I don't really encourage entrepreneurs to completely shut that pivoting process out because that's a huge part of an entrepreneur journey is learning how to pivot and how to do it well.
That's very well said. Because I can see it in my own journey of times where it's like I thought I had the winning product or idea, and then people just look at it like, no. But then it's like I polish up the exact same idea and then bring it back, and they're like, wow, I love it. And it's like, yeah, you know, you know, sometimes it just sometimes something's off, or there's something too much about it, or it's missing something, or it's just when it's it, it's it, and it speaks for itself at that point.
Totally agree. And that's, again, just one of the beauties of entrepreneurship is that we get that opportunity. A lot of times in corporate areas, there is no extra opportunity. And again, sometimes in corporate culture, again, the downfall of failure sometimes is stronger than the actual fail itself. And so I really just encourage people who are trying to step out in their own journeys, people who are seeking some level of entrepreneurship, know that you can create your own lane. You can definitely learn from other people's lanes really quickly. As we're getting ready to celebrate today, specifically Juneteenth, we've learned very quickly how fast corporate can make some quick blunders and mistakes in regards to appreciating and appropriating culture. So I think it's really interesting that, we learn from that. As entrepreneurs, we're quicker to turn around things than our corporate counterparts.
Yeah. It's a bigger game, bigger stakes, bigger L's, sometimes bigger W's.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Dang, it is Juneteenth. So yeah, this was recorded Juneteenth, and it's probably dropping I think it's gonna be November. It's mid-November. I don't know. November feels like a black month to me. I don't know.
Currently, the way that I see November is such a obviously in America, buy black is super, super important, especially around Black Friday and those festive holiday shopping peak seasons toward the holiday season. So I'm so down with that. There's so many different types of national groups that are all about supporting businesses of color, especially during those peak shopping seasons. So check some of those out. I know I'm a part of two that are giant black business directories that people can shop from during the holiday season.
Ooh, send me those links, and I'll include them in the description.
Okay, yeah, I can do that.
So, okay, here's a question. So,
okay.
I understand what you're doing in this life right now for, a living and passion, but it's let's say that capitalism was not a thing. Hustling for paying the bills wasn't a thing. What would you do with your time and space? If not what you do now, what would you do if money was no object?
Oh, man. Okay, so I always wanted to be the next black Katie Couric, okay? For those who don't know who Katie Couric is, she's an anchor on NBC News. She was an anchor. She's a reporter for NBC News. I grew up with writing. I was always a writer. I love storytelling, which is probably why I'm into podcasting the way that I am involved. And I definitely could see myself just traveling and covering the news if I needed to. But I also was really into theater. I was a double major, journalism and technical theater at Western Kentucky University, go Hilltoppers. And I have really kind of taken those skill sets that I started with and really invested them into my business. So if I had no business, I probably would be, designing sets, traveling the world, touring my family from one place to another, doing that sort of field.
Nice. So you say you're into writing, do you have, you ever, wrote, a book on the low, or?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I'm in the process of actually writing one now. So I'm really kind of excited, but we've done several ebooks and things along those lines in regards to the design space and helping entrepreneurs kind of level up their digital marketing. But I love the idea of just kind of creative writing. I'm a really big comics fan. We've got tons of comic art from local artists, some national artists here in our house, in our home. So being able to just creatively write and but also kind of, again, if I need to cover the news or something, I'm the person that wants to be behind the cameras. I'm never the one that wants to be in front of talking and saying all the things. I want to be able to direct and write and produce all the things.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, I remember the the funnies, the Sunday papers. Like it was like a must that my mom bought the Sunday papers so I could read them comics.
Yes, absolutely. We were the comic shop kids, so we wanted to go to places like Pop's Resale and the old record stores and collect comics and records and old music. I went through this season where I was a radio host, a radio DJ actually for about 2 or 3 years. And I was at the last year, I was actually pregnant with my first child. And that was hilarious to be able to have that experience of resharing a lot of things that I'm very much an old soul. So loving all these, 50s and 60s R&B jams, things along those lines, with people who really had this was decades before their culture, right? Decades before they were born. So being able to kind of pass on that same influential educational history of why these songs are so important now and to hold on to them now because they're going to regurgitate themselves through the rest of our culture over the next, 2 decades, which they totally did. So it's just kind of cool to have that type of creative background, just kind of being in that atmosphere of creativity, whether it's music, whether it's written work, whether it's theater, and being able to apply those different aspects in areas of my work now. That's pretty cool.
Nice. I'm actually waiting for that moment to happen in my life because like I have all these creative skills and stuff, but it's like they're not worth anything right now for me, But it's like
hold on to those
because it's like I feel like I should have paid attention and stayed in college and got the job I don't like with the degree I didn't want and stuff like that just to survive in the world. But it's like I feel like I wouldn't be the same. Like I wouldn't know how to do anything myself, with all this technology and stuff. Like I just kind of stay tapped into it.
I think it's so intuitive for us as creatives. We stay tapped into our purpose. And that will actually carry us through a lot more than what other people who are not tapped into their purpose. It goes a lot further. So when I say that, I really mean like when we're tapped into our purpose, we may be on our last dollar, but we're happy about it. It may be, we don't have anything in the fridge, but you know what? We can creatively create something to make it work. We're able to function sometimes in the lowest of moments when other people can't. And that's simply because we have tapped into our purpose and we see beyond today. We see beyond next week. We actually look ahead to profitable avenues for us beyond just the uncomfortableness of today. And I think that's something that's a strength that we can draw on. And I think that comes directly, especially for people of color, from our ancestors that have come before us that's had so little or so less than what we take currently for granted. If they can make success in the smallest of ways with less than what we could ever have, then by golly, we can do a lot more, go a little farther, and complain less about the opportunities that we have, even when it's tough and even when it's hard. So that's the mentality that I'm constantly in as a parent, raising boys of color, raising men. That's the position that I put myself in as a CEO, as a person who wants to propel the mindsets of women after me. And that's the mindset that I have for myself as I look back at the people who've laid a path before me.
I'm glad that you reminded me of that because, like, I was in that mentality and then somewhere along the way, like, I just forgot about it. And it's amazing that on this Juneteenth in November, that you brought it all back to me. Because, there were legitimately times where you could not be places, a lot of places, when the sun went down, and it was all bad for you because you look a certain way or, So to have this broad range that like the ancestors would be like, boy, why is you not doing that?
Yeah,
like, really, we're really slacking, really, like in the when you really like blow it up like that, like like we have no excuses. We got to get to it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's literally the everyday reminder that we are our ancestors' dream every single day. So that's something to live into when you feel like you can't see tomorrow. It's kind of holding on to that truth. So that's the encouragement that I leave behind for anyone who's struggling wherever they may be, maybe kind of seeing their own journey or not necessarily knowing what path they have for themselves in being an entrepreneur or a business owner. Just know that it gets easier. Just gotta keep putting that one step in front of the other, right?
Yeah. Yeah, as long as you keep making strides toward and progress, you will come out on top.
That's right.
Wow, tapping to our purpose. Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that has been the Lavender Water Podcast. I have been your host, Matthew Williams, and this has been my special guest, Danielle.
Thanks for having me on.
No doubt. And you're welcome back anytime. And if you want to record a podcast like this, then I could appear on yours, or, we could just network and stay tapped in.
Absolutely. More Than Graphics Podcast has weekly clubhouse rooms on Tuesdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You are welcome to jump in and have a convo with us. We'd love to have you.
Cause like I work like the nights and stuff, so like it's like all week, so I might not be able to do Tuesdays for the time being.
Okay, no worries. If we have pop-out rooms, which we sometimes do on Saturdays, usually they happen earlier in the day, like 11.
Okay.
If we do something along those lines, I'll let you know. You definitely can jump in.
All right, then. I guess
Cool.
I got to download Clubhouse again.
I know, right? That's what we were like really in between, like Twitter Spaces or Clubhouse or Twitter Spaces. And so Twitter Spaces doesn't have music, so now Clubhouse does. So we can actually have some like cool vibes to kind of get everybody in the mood before we actually jump on there and start talking. So again, we would love to have you. Just follow us on Clubhouse, and I'll give you some links to follow up with as well.
All right. I appreciate you. You have a good day.
Thank you. You too.
Peace.
Bye-bye.